So, going to ask you to look up at the screen, and we'll have a few words from the Brewers Cup champion, player number 2, from Canada, Joshua Tarlo. So that's not Joshua Tarlo, that's me. So I don't know if we're going to play this or not. So I'm going to cut straight in to ask you all to give a warm round of applause, a big whoop and holler, and a Melbourne welcome to the second finalist of the 2013 World Brewers Cup, representing Canada, Joshua Tarlo.
Cool. So is it, you're my time guy? Good to go. Judges, hello. It's nice seeing some of you again, and some for the first time. So I got to Melbourne, and like everyone else, I had a pretty solid plan. I knew what I was going to do, and that promptly fell apart in the best way possible. You see, I got my coffee about 6 days before I flew out. So we were cupping like crazy and trying to experience what it was like, extrapolate that on the time to get here. And it was really interesting. It was really intense. And so I loved it because of its intensity, but I was a little worried that it would be not quite what I wanted. And so when I got to Melbourne, I was kind of cupping everything I was around. I'd spent some time here, so I knew some folks who had a word on some really good coffee. And so I had the pleasure of going to roasteries, going to cafes, having this sort of experience that I hope all of you have had while you've been here, of just enjoying the city. And while I was here, I tasted something incredible. I tasted the Panama Hartman honey process, geisha, and it was absolutely beautiful. But what else it was completely complementary to my coffee. You see, I think we kind of forget about blending, and we forget what it is for. It's not just to, it doesn't take away from showcasing beans. It's about complementing beans, complementing flavors. And that's what I really wanted to do here. I realized that, I should go back to that, back to this idea that we've had for ages of celebrating two beans that really work well together. And so my first bean was 90 Plus's Panama Lucilio, and it's a geisha. So like I said, it was the Hartman and the 90 Plus. They're grown just a few miles from each other. And actually, the 90 Plus Lucilio is processed at the Hartman Estates. You see, 90 Plus comes up with a processing technique and the procedures, and then they use the equipment at Hartman to really just bring out this incredible washed bean. And so they're processed so near each other that it's no surprise that they work really well together. And the thing about where they're grown, it's the little area called Volcan in Panama. And it's a microclimate that is a lot cooler. And the 90 Plus really works with that. You see, because of the cool air, it actually develops like a higher altitude bean. It's only grown around 1,500 meters, but it develops so much faster than others at that height. And then, so speaking of microclimates, they go one step further, and they celebrate kind of the microclimate. The Lucilio that I'm using is from an estate, as they call them, 14. And that estate is only about 300 pounds, so it's really small. And what they're doing is looking at the individual areas that these beans are grown and sort of celebrating the nuances that come from individual beans and how they can be incredibly different. Before I picked the 14, I'd cupped a bunch of them, and it was blown away from just, tens of meters away from each other, how different they were. And I was really excited with it. And so what you're going to actually be experiencing from the Lucilio in the cup is a little bit of orange. It's going to have this sort of citrusiness, and that's going to be near the end. But before that, it's going to be slightly almost limey, very refreshing. And that lime suits really well with this sort of like honey reduction, almost panela-like sweetness that's going to come from the Hartman. And so on the first experience you're going to get is a little bit of almost dried cocoa, and that's going to be on the nose as well. And there's almost like a sweet cederness to it. It's really changed as it's developed, but it's changed in kind of these interesting ways as beans do. I don't necessarily like to look at beans going, peak and then no peak. and off-peak and all that sort of thing. It's just about the life of the bean and what you're getting at different times and enjoying that. And so the difference of this than how it's been is a lot calmer, and that calmness is really satisfying. It's very juicy. And so that juiciness is a bit on the body where it really, it's almost like a shortbread sort of pie crust butteriness that really coats the side of your mouth. And now, so for brewing, what I've done here is I'm using 18 grams of coffee, which is a lot higher than I've been using before. But the reason is because I found that to the couple days of rest, it had changed, but I really wanted to push that sweetness out of it, that honey sort of pinelli-y. And so I went a bit higher, and as you can see, they're dripping pretty tight. It's a really, really slow extraction because I want to bring out that sweet. And so the 18 grams is a ratio of 10 grams of Hartmann to 8 grams of the Licelio, because the Licelio is that little bit more intense, and so the subtleties of the Hartmann, I just want to bring out a tiny bit more. And so I've sifted the coffee, which if you're not familiar with, is a process of eliminating fine particles from your brew. So every time you grind coffee, you're getting particles that are really large, your boulders. They are the ones that you're kind of dialing in for, and the ones a bit small. And all of them bring something different to the brew. Those fines, people say that they bring complexity, and I tend to agree with them. But too many of them kind of bring that over extraction. And those big ones, those boulders, give you sweetness. So this is a pretty coarse grind that's going on here. Because, again, pulling out sweetness. That's sort of, if you will, the theme of this extraction. And so I loaded in the bottom. I did one bloom of 30 grams of water. Just let those flavors be nice and crystal clear. I'm just pulling them a little bit early because I'm finding the extraction just goes a bit tiny long. There we go. And now when I pour them into your cup, feel free to start experiencing them right away. I want you to start smelling the aromatics, start getting into the sipping of them when they're quite warm. I just want to say it's been a real pleasure being here, and I know you guys are drinking so much coffee, and that's exciting coffee, so I want to say thank you. But from myself, Pig Iron Coffee Roasters in Toronto, Proud Marys in Melbourne, 90 Plus in Panama, and the Hartmann Estate, please enjoy. Time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joshua Tarlo representing Canada. Come over here, Joshua.
Hey, man. Let's go. Oh, yeah.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thanks.
It's a very relaxed performance.
Oh, yeah, well, it's just glitter. This is fun.
Making coffee.
Yeah.
You make coffee every day?
I make coffee quite a
It's
few
what
times
you do?
a day.
Yeah. So tell us about what you do every day.
My job itself is training and quality control with Pig Iron and a couple of cafes, and so I am the person tasting tons of shots, making sure everything's running smoothly, and so that really helps with this, and it's helped with this sort of experience of like, here's some new coffee, throw it together and make it amazing, because that's kind of my life right now, and so yeah.
So Pig Iron is a relatively new roastery in Canada. Tell us a bit about them.
Well, they're a new roastery that's sort of leaning a lot more on the progressive style of roasting, so that they're a bit lighter, focusing on your acids, more complexity, and I've been lucky enough to be with them from right when I moved back, and it's been a great experience.
There's an interesting thing going on in terms of roasting. You said you've got a blend of two beans, but also two roasters.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I was lucky enough, Pig Iron in Toronto, and then I can see Nolan from Proud Mary in the stand over there, and he was just the sweetest man in bringing me to his cuppings. And it was these incredible cuppings of just some of the best tables you can ever wish for. And constantly I was like, this Hartmann is just stupid good. And I just really wanted to, I realized after having my coffee as well that, we've moved away from that. We've moved away from this idea of blending and what it should be, and that's complementary flavors, and that's what these guys give to each other.
And did you say both varietals were the same? They're both geishas?
9 Plus is the geisha, and then the geisha from the Hartmann, so it's the same sort of thing.
And geographically very close together?
Very close, just kind of down the road. I've been talking to the guys from 90 Plus, and it's been this sort of fun thing to hear about this area, and it's beautiful. And
it's kind of great that you get these two coffees, which are next door to each other, pretty much the same, but then delivering completely different flavors in your cup.
Well, that's what I liked also about that estate thing, that they're really concentrating on like these micro climates. You get these beans where people will just say, you're a good chef, and they're huge areas, but this is just more about what does this individual area bring to the cup, and it's awesome to kind of celebrate that. And I know I'm sort of muddling it with the blending, but at the same time, it was just really nice to experience.
So, and people here, they can taste the the coffee from Joshua, which is being brewed over here on the brew bar. So if anybody wants to taste that, describe the flavors that people will get when they go and taste that again.
Well, I'm not sure how they're actually brewing it over there, so we'll kind of change.
They're doing bulk brew, so they're doing either 3 or 6 liters.
Okay.
And as far as I know, they're using 65 grams per liter.
Okay, so it might be a little bit more body. I had a little bit more of it. It wasn't as you're still going to get a lot more of the sweetness. There might miss some of the delicacy out of it, just because brew methods change everything. But yeah, you're going to be getting that sort of honey and vanilla.
And you used a higher dose than that, is that right?
Higher dose than I used in the preliminaries, and that was just to bring out more of the coffee. It's starting to age. Half of it was on an airplane, and so that adds to it.
Like all of us.
Yeah, except for the Australians.
Yeah. And when you say you used 18 grams of coffee, how much water did you use?
Oh, yeah, 220 grams of water.
220, okay, so it's a higher dose than the...
Yeah, just a little bit higher, just bringing out a little bit more of that sweetness.
Okay, great. Well, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed your time here.
Hey, thanks. And thanks for doing this.
Hey, not at all. Thank you very
Nice
much.
chatting
Ladies and
with you.
gentlemen, Joshua Tarlo, the Brewers Cup champion of Canada.